Ta Lin pulled the collar of his jacket tighter as the winter wind cut through the trees. His evening walks usually cleared his mind after long hours hunched over astronomical data, but tonight something felt different. The air smelled wrong, like metal and ozone. That's when he saw the gash in the forest. Broken pines and churned earth led to something gleaming in the darkness. Tay approached cautiously, flashlight beam bobbing ahead of him. What he had initially taken for a meteorite was clearly manufactured. A small craft, no larger than his garden shed, had plowed through the forest behind his remote cabin. The metal, if it was metal, seemed to absorb his flashlight's beam rather than reflect it. "Hello," he called, more from instinct than expectation of response. A scraping sound came from within the wreckage. Tay froze, then edged closer. "Is someone there?" His voice sounded thin in the vast silence of the forest. The craft had split open on one side, revealing a cramped interior filled with blinking lights and strange symbols. Nestled among the broken panels was a figure. At first, Tay thought his eyes were playing tricks. The person inside looked almost human, a young woman with delicate features, but in the beam of his flashlight, her skin held a distinct lavender tint. Her eyes fluttered open, catching the moonlight with an amber glow no human eyes should have. "Help," she whispered, one arm reaching toward him. On her wrist, a device unlike anything Tay had ever seen sparked and sputtered with failing energy. Tay stepped back, his mind racing. He should call someone. The police, the university, someone with authority. But even as these thoughts came, he watched the woman's. The being's face contoured with pain. "Please," she said again, her voice accented but clearly English. Making a decision he might later regret, Tay climbed carefully into the wreckage. Up close, her alienness was subtle but unmistakable. Beyond the lavender skin and amber eyes, there was something about the symmetry of her features that seemed too perfect. "I'm going to help you," Tay said, more to reassure himself than her. "Can you move?" She nodded weakly. When Tay helped her out of the craft, he was surprised by how light she felt, as if her bones were hollow like a bird's. Her body radiated unusual heat against the winter chill. "My home is close," he told her, supporting her weight as they began the walk back through the woods. "What's your name?" The woman opened her mouth, then closed it again, looking confused. She tapped her throat and shook her head. "It's okay," Tay said. "I'm Ta Lin." She nodded in acknowledgement but offered nothing in return. The cabin came into view, its windows glowing warmly against the darkness. Inside, Tay helped her to the couch and brought a blanket. She was wearing a close-fitting suit of unfamiliar material, neither cloth nor plastic, but something in between. "I need to call someone," Tay said, reaching for his phone. Her hand shot out with surprising speed, gripping his wrist. She shook her head emphatically. "No one," Tay asked, startled by her strength. "You need medical help." Again, she shook her head. She pointed to the device on her wrist, then made a sleeping gesture. "You need to rest, and that thing will help you." She nodded, closing her eyes briefly, in what seemed like relief at being understood. Tay sat down across from her, trying to process what was happening. An alien, an actual extraterrestrial being, was in his living room. The scientific implications alone were staggering. Everything humanity thought it knew about its place in the universe had just changed. "You need a name," he said finally. "At least while you're here. I can't just call you Hey You." She tilted her head, waiting. "How about Hana?" Tay suggested, thinking of his grandmother's name. "It means one in Korean. First contact and all that." A small smile curved her lips. She nodded. "Hana it is then." Tay made her tea, which she sniffed curiously before drinking. Her movements became more fluid as time passed, as if she were adjusting to Earth's gravity. When he showed her to the spare bedroom, she examined everything with intense curiosity. The light switch, the bedding, the books on the shelf. After she settled in, Tai retreated to his study, mind spinning. His old ham radio was still set up from his days tracking weather patterns. On impulse, he turned it on and began scanning frequencies. It didn't take long to find unusual chatter. Government bands that should have been encrypted came through with startling clarity. Atmospheric entry at 21:43 hours. Coordinates confirmed. Recovery team mobilizing. Maintain media blackout until. Someone knew something had entered Earth's atmosphere. Someone was coming to look for it. For her. Tay switched off the radio, heart pounding. He had decisions to make. Whatever, whoever Hannah was, she had come to him for help. She clearly feared being found. From the spare room came a soft humming sound. Ta peered in to find Hannah sitting cross-legged on the bed, eyes closed, the wrist device now glowing steadily instead of sparking. The lavender tint of her skin seemed to pulse slightly with the light. As Tai watched, her eyes opened, fixing on him with that eerie amber glow. "Thank you," she said clearly, her voice musical and strange. Tai nodded, unsure what he had just gotten himself into. Outside, the wind picked up, carrying snowflakes that swirled past the window like distant stars. In the morning, everything would be different. The world would be different. But for tonight, an alien named Hannah slept in his spare room, and Ta Lin found himself becoming the most unlikely host in human history. 2 weeks passed since the night Ta found Hannah in the crash craft. Winter loosened its grip on the forest, and patches of bare ground appeared between melting snow. Inside the cabin, Tai adjusted to living with someone who wasn't quite human. Hannah's wounds had healed with remarkable speed. The deep gash on her arm that should have required stitches closed within days. The bruising that had covered half her face faded completely by the end of the first week. This morning, Ta found her bent over his astronomy work, studying star charts spread across his desk with unusual intensity. Her amber eyes tracked across the pages, occasionally pausing to tap a spot on the map. "Something wrong?" Tai asked, setting down 2 mugs of coffee. "Your star charts are incomplete," Hannah said without looking up. She pointed to a section of sky near Orion. "There are 7 systems here. Your charts show only 3. Tai frowned. "That's impossible. That region has been thoroughly mapped." "Not from Earth's instruments," Hannah replied. She seemed to catch herself and straightened. "I studied astronomy too, where I'm from." Tai wanted to press further, but something in her expression made him hesitate. Since regaining her ability to speak, Hannah answered questions about herself with vague half-truths. She claimed to be a researcher from very far away, but offered little else. "Coffee?" he offered instead, changing the subject. As Hannah reached for the mug, Tai's elbow caught the edge of the desk. The second mug tipped, coffee sloshing over the rim as it fell. What happened next seemed impossible. Hannah's hand shot out, catching the mug in midair before a single drop could hit the floor. The movement was too fast, too precise, nothing like human reflexes. "How did you do that?" Tai asked, staring at the perfectly caught mug. "Reflexes," she answered simply, but her eyes darted away. She placed the mug carefully on the desk and turned back to the star charts. Throughout the day, Ta noticed other oddities. Hannah could hear the microwave beep from outside. She never seemed to get cold despite the chilly spring air. When she thought he wasn't looking, she moved with a fluid grace that seemed almost predatory. That afternoon, Tai drove into town for supplies. The small market was buzzing with gossip. "Government types," the cashier told him as she bagged his groceries. "Staying at the old motel. Been asking everyone about lights in the sky 2 weeks back." Tai kept his face neutral. What kind of government? Didn't say. Black SUVs, though. Real official looking. On the drive home, Ta spotted helicopter tracks crisscrossing the sky above the forest where he'd found Hannah's craft. His hands tightened on the steering wheel. Dusk was falling when he returned to the cabin. As he unloaded groceries from his truck, he heard an unusual sound from behind the house. Following it, he found Hannah standing at the forest's edge, her back to him. She was speaking into her wrist device in a language unlike anything he'd ever heard, clicking consonants and musical tones that seemed to overlap impossibly. She must have heard his approach because she turned suddenly, clicking the device off. Her smile was too bright, too rehearsed. "Ta, I didn't hear you return. What was that?" he asked, gesturing to her wrist. "Oh, this." She touched the device. "I was practicing a poem from my homeland. It helps with homesickness." Ty wanted to believe her, but the careful neutrality in her eyes told him otherwise. "Hannah," he said slowly, "I need to know what's happening. People are looking for whatever crashed in the woods. For you." Something flashed across her face. Calculation, perhaps. "I told you, I'm a researcher. My transportation malfunctioned." "No more half-truths," Ty insisted. "Those star charts, that language. The way you move. You're not just from another country." Hannah looked away, toward the darkening forest. "If I tell you everything, it puts you at risk." "I'm already at risk," Ta said. "I'm harboring a fugitive, or whatever you are." She seemed about to respond when the sound of an engine rumbled in the distance. Headlights cut through the trees as a vehicle approached along the rarely used forest road. A black SUV crawled past the cabin, moving slowly enough for its occupants to survey the property. Todd watched, pretending casual interest at an unexpected visitor. Beside him, Hannah's entire demeanor changed. Her body tensed like a coiled spring. Her breathing slowed, and her eyes tracked the vehicle with predatory focus. For the first time, Ty felt genuinely afraid of her. The SUV continued down the road, disappearing around a bend. "Friends of yours?" Ty asked, trying to keep his voice light. "No." Hannah's voice had changed too, deeper, more authoritative. "Not friends at all." She turned to him, all pretense gone. "They will return. I should leave before they do." "And go where?" Ty asked. "The nearest town is 30 miles away. The forest is being searched. You have nowhere to go." Hannah looked at him, really looked at him, perhaps for the first time. "Why are you helping me, Talin? You know I'm not what I claim to be. You know I'm dangerous." Ta considered the question. 2 weeks ago, his biggest concern had been finishing his research paper on exoplanet detection methods. Now he was hiding an alien from government agents. "Because whatever you are," he finally said, "you needed help. And because I've spent my whole life looking up at the stars, wondering if we were alone. Now I know we're not." Something softened in Hannah's amber eyes. She nodded once, decision made. "Come inside," she said. "If they're going to find us, you should at least know what they're looking for." As they walked back to the cabin, Ta noticed her scanning the tree line, her movements precise and measured. Whatever Hannah truly was, he suspected he was about to learn just how far beyond researcher her real identity went. Ta couldn't sleep. Hannah's partial revelations earlier that evening had left him with more questions than answers. She'd admitted to being from beyond your solar system, but remained vague about why she was here and who might be looking for her. The cabin creaked in the wind as midnight approached. Ta stared at the ceiling, his mind racing through possibilities, each more fantastic than the last. A soft click from downstairs broke his thoughts. Not the house settling. Something else. Ta sat up, listening. Another sound, the whisper of movement near the back door. He slipped out of bed and padded to his bedroom door. Before he could open it, Hannah appeared like a shadow. Her amber eyes seemed to glow in the darkness. "Stay here," she whispered. "Someone's outside." Ta moved to the window, peering through a gap in the curtains. The moonlight revealed dark figures moving across his property, men in tactical gear, approaching from multiple directions. 8 of them, all armed, all silent. "It's them," he said. "The government agents from town." Hannah joined him at the window. She watched the figures with an eerie stillness. "Those are not government agents," she said. Her voice had changed, deeper, commanding. "Get away from the windows." "But—" "Stay down," Hannah whispered, pushing him gently but firmly toward the floor. Whatever happens, whatever you see, do not interfere. In the dim light, Ty noticed her transformation. Gone was the vulnerable woman he'd rescued. Her stance widened, eyes calculating, body poised with deadly readiness. The frightened girl had vanished, replaced by something else entirely. "Who are you, really?" Ty asked. A grim smile crossed her face. "You're about to find out." The sound of breaking glass came from downstairs, followed by the heavy thud of boots on hardwood. Hannah motioned for Ty to stay put, then slipped from the room with silent grace. Against her instructions, Ty crept to the top of the stairs. What he witnessed next would forever change his understanding of reality. Hannah, or whoever she truly was, stood at the center of his living room. The intruders had surrounded her, weapons raised. Their faces were covered by dark masks, bodies encased in armor unlike any military gear Ty had seen. "Put your hands up," one of them ordered, voice strangely flat. "You will come with us." Hannah straightened to her full height. The air around her seemed to shimmer with energy. "Commander Rhea of the Galactic Defense Force," she announced, her voice ringing with authority. "You are in violation of treaty boundaries. This planet is under protection status. Identify yourselves." The intruders hesitated. Then, as one, they attacked. What followed defied belief. Hannah, no, Rhea, moved like lightning. She dodged the first attacker with impossible speed, spinning to disarm him in one fluid motion. His weapon clattered to the floor as she used his momentum to throw him into two others. The remaining attackers fired strange weapons that emitted pulses of blue energy. Rhea ducked beneath the blasts, rolling across the floor to come up behind another intruder. Her hands moved in precise strikes to pressure points Ty didn't know existed. The man collapsed. One by one, she disabled them, breaking no bones, drawing no blood, but rendering each unconscious with efficient precision. Movements too fast to follow, tactics no human martial art could explain. The entire fight lasted less than 30 seconds. When it ended, 8 armored figures lay scattered across Ty's living room, and Rhea stood in the center, barely breathing hard. She looked up at Ty, still frozen on the stairs. "It's safe now. They're neutralized." Ty descended slowly, trying to process what he'd seen. "Who are they? Who are you?" Rhea knelt beside one of the unconscious intruders and removed his mask. The face beneath appeared human at first glance, but as Ty moved closer, he noticed the differences. Eyes too widely spaced, nostrils too narrow, skin with a faint greenish tint. She pulled up the sleeve of the intruder's uniform, revealing skin covered in tiny scales that caught the light. "They're not human," she explained, looking up at Ty. "Neither am I." Ty sank into a chair, legs suddenly weak. "Are they from the same place as you?" "No." Rhea stood, moving to the center of the room where she began checking her wrist device. It glowed with restored power, symbols scrolling across its surface. "They're Narek scouts. Advance force for something much worse." Her fingers danced over the device, manipulating controls Todd couldn't begin to understand. "I crashed while pursuing an advanced scout. Earth was never supposed to be involved." "Involved in what?" Todd managed to ask. Rhea's amber eyes met his. "War. The Narek Collective has been expanding through 3 sectors, assimilating worlds, harvesting resources. The Galactic Defense Force has contained them so far, but they're getting desperate, looking for unprotected systems. Like Earth," Ta said, understanding dawning. "Yes." Rhea nodded. "Your world isn't officially recognized yet. Too primitive by Coalition standards. I apologize for the term, but your species hasn't achieved faster than light travel, so you're classified as pre-contact." Tad looked at the fallen intruders. "But they found us anyway." "I led them here," Rhea said, regret flashing across her face. "My pursuit ship was damaged in an engagement near your outer planets. The scout I was chasing saw me crash. Now they know Earth is here, undefended, rich in resources." What happens now? Ty asked. Raya touched her wrist device again, and a holographic display appeared above it, stars and planets in three-dimensional relief. My emergency beacon is finally functioning. Help will come, but not soon enough. The Narak never send just 8 scouts. These were just locating me. When they don't report back, more will come. Ty finished for her. Yes, many more. Raya looked around the cabin, at the simple human dwelling that had sheltered her. I've put your world in danger, Tylin. I'm sorry. You were doing your job, Ta said. Defending the galaxy, apparently. A small smile touched her lips. Commander of the 7th Fleet, Galactic Defense Force. Not quite the helpless refugee you rescued. So what do we do? Ty asked. Call your people again. Alert Earth authorities. Raya shook her head. Earth governments wouldn't believe us until it's too late. My people will come, but we need to slow the Narak advance until then. She looked at him intently. I need your help, Ta. Your knowledge of this world, its geography, its systems. Will you help me? Tad looked around at his simple life. Books, telescope, research, then at the alien warriors unconscious on his floor. His world had changed forever. Yes, he said simply. What's the plan? Commander Rhea of the Galactic Defense Force smiled, and for the first time, Ty saw the full measure of the warrior behind the woman he had rescued from the stars. Morning light filtered through the cabin windows as Ty scrolled through news headlines on his tablet. After securing the unconscious aliens in a storage shed using equipment from Raya's crashed ship, they had spent the night planning their next move. Look at this, Ta said, turning the screen toward Raya. Unexplained explosions at military bases in Nevada and Montana. Authorities calling it terrorist attacks. Raya studied the images, her face grim. Her lavender skin seemed paler in the morning light, but her amber eyes remained sharp and focused. They're targeting military installations first, she explained, pointing to the pattern of incidents across the continent. Standard invasion protocol. Disable defense capabilities, then communication networks, then power grids. But they're aliens with advanced technology, Ta said. Why would Earth's military be any threat to them? It's not about threat. It's about control. Raya manipulated her wrist device, bringing up a holographic map that overlaid with the news reports. Narak invasions follow strict patterns. They're methodical. They'll establish forward bases at strategic locations, then expand outward. She pointed to several locations on the map. These will be their next targets. Ty stared at the glowing points. Military bases, power stations, major communication hubs. We need to warn someone. And tell them what? That aliens are invading. Raya shook her head. Your governments would waste precious time arguing while the Narak secure their position. She checked her wrist device. The emergency beacon embedded in it pulsed with a steady rhythm. My forces won't arrive for 3 more days. The 7th Fleet was engaged in the Arcturus sector when I crashed. 3 days, Tay repeated. What happens in those 3 days? Raya's expression hardened. We slow them down, disrupt their pattern, force them to adapt. Just the 2 of us, against an alien invasion force. I've faced worse odds. Raya opened a small compartment in her wrist device and removed what looked like a data chip. First, we need intelligence. This can access your planet's surveillance systems. Do you have transportation? An hour later, Ta's old pickup truck rumbled down the highway. His camping gear and astronomy equipment in the back provided cover for their true purpose. Beside him, Raya looked almost human in borrowed clothes, jeans, and a hooded sweatshirt covering her distinctive features. Turn here, she instructed, eyes on her device. Somehow, she had patched into military communications, scanning frequencies no civilian radio could access. The road led them to the outskirts of an industrial area. An abandoned factory complex stood surrounded by chain-link fence and NO2 respacing signs. There, Raya said, pointing to the largest building. That's their forward base. Unusual energy signatures consistent with Nerak technology. Tide parked on a ridge overlooking the complex. Through binoculars, he could see movement around the buildings, figures that moved with the same precision as their nighttime attackers. "What's the plan?" he asked. Raya reached into a small pouch at her belt and removed a silver sphere no larger than a ping-pong ball. "This is a disruption device. It will temporarily disable their communications and coordination systems. And how do we get it in there?" "We don't. I do." She handed him the sphere. "When I give the signal, throw this as far as you can toward the main building." "And then what?" "Then I go in and sabotage their command center." Tad looked at her in disbelief. "Alone? There must be dozens of them." 34, by my count. Raya's expression was calm, matter of fact. "Stay with the vehicle. If I'm not back in 40 minutes, drive away and don't look back." As dusk approached, they moved closer to the complex. Raya led them through a gap in the fence she somehow knew would be there. Crouching behind abandoned equipment, they watched as alien soldiers patrolled in precise patterns. "Now," Raya whispered, pointing to a gap in the patrols. Tai wound up and threw the silver sphere with all his strength. It sailed over the fence, landing near the main building entrance. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a silent pulse of energy rippled outward. The patrolling aliens stumbled, their movements suddenly uncoordinated. "Stay hidden," Raya commanded. Then she was gone, moving with impossible speed toward the building. Tai watched through binoculars as she approached the first guard. The alien was twice her size, heavily armored, but Raya moved like she was dancing. A twist, a strike to a particular point, and the guard collapsed without a sound. She continued inside, disappearing from view. Minutes ticked by. Taz's heart pounded as he waited, wondering if he would ever see her again. Sudden commotion erupted at the main entrance. Alarms blared. Alien soldiers rushed toward the building, weapons drawn. Tai held his breath, certain Raya had been discovered. Then explosions rocked the far side of the complex, precise, controlled detonations that sent aliens rushing in that direction. In the chaos, Tai almost missed Raya's return. She appeared at his side so suddenly he nearly cried out. "Time to go," she said, her voice calm despite a fresh cut on her cheek. As they hurried back to the truck, a massive explosion shook the ground. The main factory building collapsed in on itself, a controlled implosion that raised minimal dust. "What did you do?" Tai asked as they drove away, his hands shaking on the steering wheel. "Set their operation back by days. Destroyed their communication array and command protocols." Raya was already checking her device, planning their next move. "They'll regroup, but slower now. We've bought time." Tai glanced at her. Her face was streaked with dirt, but she showed no signs of fear or fatigue. "I saw you in there. How you moved through them." "Combat training," she said simply. "No, it was more than that." Ta shook his head in wonder. "They never even saw you coming. You disabled a dozen armed soldiers in minutes." For the first time, Raya looked uncomfortable. "My position in the defense force is specialized." "You're not just a commander, are you?" Her amber eyes met his. "Among my people, there is a designation, Horizon Blade. Warriors selected for particular abilities, trained from childhood to protect Coalition space. And that's you." She nodded once. "I am the 7th Horizon Blade. There are only 10 in the galaxy." As they drove through the darkening landscape, Ta finally understood. He wasn't sheltering a refugee. He wasn't even helping a military officer. He was witnessing the galaxy's most feared warrior in action, and Earth's fate now rested in her hands. "Where to next?" he asked. Raya pointed to another location on her map. "Their secondary base. We have work to do, Talin." The truck sped into the night as behind them. Alien forces scrambled to recover from a blow they never saw coming. For 3 days, Ta and Raya waged their quiet war against the Nerak forces. They hit 6 bases across the country, disrupting alien operations with strategic precision. News reports spoke of mysterious explosions and unexplained equipment failures at military installations. Government officials appeared on television, faces grim as they addressed coordinated terrorist attacks. They knew nothing of the true battle being fought, or that Earth's fate hung in the balance. On the third day, Ta's truck rattled up a remote mountain road. Both he and Raya were exhausted. Their last mission had been close, too close. Raya had sustained a cut across her shoulder that glowed faintly with an unnatural blue. "Are you sure you're okay?" Tai asked, glancing at her wound. "Biotoxin," Raya explained, applying a gel from her medical kit. "Narek standard issue. I've neutralized it." They'd reached the summit just as twilight painted the sky in purples and pinks. From this vantage point, they could see for miles, the city lights beginning to twinkle in the valley below, and above them, the first stars appearing. "Your beacon," Ta said, nodding toward her wrist device. "Shouldn't your people be here by now?" Raya checked the pulsing light. "Soon. The 7th Fleet must navigate carefully. Earth has no official protection status." They sat in silence as darkness fell completely. After days of constant movement and danger, the stillness felt strange. Tai studied Raya's profile in the moonlight, the determined set of her jaw, the alertness in her posture even now. "What happens after?" he asked. "When your fleet arrives and stops the Narek, what happens to Earth?" Raya's amber eyes reflected the stars as she looked up. "Everything changes. Your world enters a new era." "And you?" Tai's question hung in the air between them. Before she could answer, her device chimed. Raya stood immediately, scanning the night sky. "They're here," she said, voice tight with anticipation. At first, Tai saw nothing unusual. Then, high above, the stars began to move. Not shooting stars or satellites, these lights shifted in formation, descending through the atmosphere in perfect synchronization. The skies filled with light as Raya's reinforcements arrived. Elegant ships, shaped like arrowheads with flowing lines that seemed impossible for metal, entered Earth's atmosphere without sound or turbulence. Blue energy fields shimmered around them, pulsing in rhythm. Raya's device projected a holographic display showing the Narek positions and the approaching Defense Force ships. As Tai watched, the friendly forces spread across the continent, targeting each Narek stronghold with surgical precision. "Minimal collateral impact protocols engage," Raya said, reading the data streams. "No human casualties authorized." In the distance, a flash of blue light illuminated the horizon. A Narek base neutralized. Then another and another. The battle for Earth was happening silently, invisibly to most of its inhabitants. A smaller craft separated from the fleet, heading directly toward their mountain. It hovered above them, bathing the summit in soft blue light. The beam extended from its underside, and 3 figures materialized before them. They wore uniforms similar to Ria's but more elaborate. Their skin tones ranged from deep blue to copper, their features both familiar and alien. Raya straightened, saluting with a precise movement. "Commander Raya, 7th Horizon Blade, reporting." The central figure, tall with silver-streaked hair and skin like burnished gold, returned the salute. "Commander, the Council sends its regards. Your mission data has been received." Raya gestured to Ta. "This is Ta Lin." He provided essential assistance. Without him, the Narek would have established full planetary control before your arrival. The golden-skinned officer studied Ta with eyes like polished obsidian. "The Galactic Defense Force extends its gratitude, Ta Lin of Earth." Ta nodded, words failing him in the presence of these beings from beyond the stars. The officers withdrew to the side, speaking with Raya in the clicking, musical language Ta had heard before. When they finished, they returned to their ship in the same beam of light. Raya remained, but she had changed. Her simple clothes had been replaced by a uniform that seemed to absorb and reflect light simultaneously. An insignia shimmered on her chest, a starburst pattern that marked her rank. Your world will change now, Raya told Ty as they watched the ships continuing their work from the hillside. First contact wasn't supposed to happen this way. What will happen to us? Ty asked. To humans. The Council will establish diplomatic channels. Your governments will be informed gradually. It will take time for your people to adjust. Will you leave? He asked, the question he most feared. She touched the insignia newly materialized on her uniform. I have duties. The Narak will retreat, but they won't stop. The border sectors need protection. Ty nodded, understanding but not wanting to accept. In mere weeks, this alien woman had changed everything. He thought he knew about the universe and about himself. Raya reached into a compartment on her uniform and removed a small device, silver and delicate. She placed it in his palm, closing his fingers around it. This connects directly to me, she said. When Earth's leaders are ready to talk, you'll be my first call. The device warmed in his hand, recognizing his touch. They'll think I'm crazy. Perhaps at first. A rare smile softened her features. But they'll listen eventually. You've seen things no other human has. You understand both worlds now. Above them, the ships completed their mission. Narak forces neutralized. The fleet began to ascend, preparing to leave Earth's atmosphere. I should join them, Raya said, her device signaling a ship approaching for extraction. Ty wanted to say something profound, something that would capture everything he felt, but words seemed inadequate. Thank you, he said simply, for saving us, for showing me the stars are even more amazing than I imagined. Rhea stepped closer, her amber eyes meeting his. She placed her hand over his heart in what he realized was a gesture of deep respect among her people. This isn't goodbye forever, she said, just the first pause in a much longer story. The extraction beam enveloped her, and for a moment, she seemed to shine from within. Then she was gone, rising toward the waiting ship. Ty remained on the mountainside long after the fleet disappeared, the small silver communicator warm in his palm. The night sky would never look the same to him again. Somewhere among those distant points of light, Raya, commander of the 7th Fleet, Horizon Blade, protector of galaxies, continued her eternal watch. And when Earth was ready, she would return. Their story, spanning stars and beginning with an alien girl who crashed into a human's life, was far from over.